Good morning, everybody. I wish you are all fine, third prep. Today we are going to talk about part 2 in chapter 3, Joe Green's lesson. What's the meaning of Joe Green's lesson? It means that Joe Green learned a lesson. From what? From a small incident that happened to Black Beauty. يبقى he learned a lesson, تعلم درس. Joe Green learned a lesson. What is this lesson? Okay, let's see what is this lesson. It's hard for me to describe the journey back, and the doctor was heavier. In part 1, John Manley took Black Beauty to go to the doctor because who was ill? Who was ill? Squire Jordan's wife was ill. So John Manley took Black Beauty for long distance to bring the doctor. When he reached to the doctor told him that he had a problem. His only horse was with his son, and there were no horses near him. So John Manley wanted Black Beauty to have rest, but because the doctor said so, he was forced to give the doctor Black Beauty to go back. By this way, Black Beauty took the way to the doctor running, and is going to carry the doctor, who is heavier than John Manley and not a good rider, okay? So we have now a problem with Black Beauty, that he went to the doctor running and quickly because Squire Jordan's wife was ill, and now he is coming back or returning to Squire Jordan's Pertwee Park with the doctor, who is heavier than John Manley and not a good rider. I had almost no energy when we finally arrived back at Pertwee Park. Who is saying this? Black Beauty. The doctor ran into the house, and young Joe took me inside. Joe Green took Black Beauty inside. All my hair was wet, and I felt so hot. Okay. Poor Joe was young and didn't know what to do. A horse who has just run a long way needs to stay warm and drink warm water. It is a dangerous time for the horse. What is the dangerous time for the horse? To what? To go a long way and come back and drink cold water. The horse should be given warm water and should be warmed, warmed. Okay, so someone should stay and watch him. 2. Joe did not do this. He did not put a warm blanket on me because I was hot. He needed a blanket, بطانية. And then he gave me cold water, and he put cold water in front of Black Beauty. But Joe Green didn't know because he was still young. Before he went away and left me alone inside the stable. When I woke up, John was at my side. John Manley returned back, and he was sitting beside who? Beside Black Beauty. It was difficult for me to breathe. Black Beauty had difficulty in breathing. He couldn't breathe. Why? Because he drank cold water, and there was no blanket put on him. He covered me with blankets, مش واحدة بس, blankets, and gave me some hot water, water. Here he started to treat Black Beauty, who was terribly ill. Squire Jordan also came to see me. Poor Black Beauty, you saved my wife's life. And now you are as ill as she was. Although I was ill, I was happy to hear that she was well again. How kind of Black Beauty! He was happy that Mrs. Jordan became well, and he saved her. Black Beauty saved her. Young John Green was very unhappy. He knew that I was ill because he did the wrong things that night. Luckily, I became well again in a few days, but I knew that John was angry with Joe. Black Beauty started to restore his health and he became well again. But John was angry with Joe. A few weeks later, Joe took me out to take a message to a neighbor. Squire Jordan was sending a message to a neighbor. On the way home, we passed a carriage that was full of heavy metal bars. وفي طريقهم للبيت عدوا على carriage. This carriage was full of heavy metal bars, metal things, يعني heavy things. Okay, it was taking them to a nearby factory. Okay, let's move to the next. Okay, the carriage couldn't move. Why didn't the carriage move? Because the weight was heavy, and there was mud on the road. Two horses were trying to pull the carriage, but they couldn't. Lay because there was mud and the metal was too heavy for the two horses to pull. The driver was cruel. Why was the driver cruel بقى يا ولاد؟ لأن he was hitting the horses hard with whip كرباج. Okay, so the wheels will not move in this mud. Here Joe is offering to help the driver and telling him that the wheels will not move, the mud is thick, there was mud. The driver answered rudely, and again Joe Green offered to help to take some of the metal from the carriage to move the carriage, but again the driver refused and said, I know what I am doing, and he continued to hit the horses. Okay, what happened? Joe took Black Beauty, or rode Black Beauty to the factory and told the manager of the factory what the rider of the horses did. And the manager told John to tell the police about this horrible man who was hitting the horses in a cruel way. The manager went to find the garage, which was full of metal. Joe went home and Joe told John Manley, what happened. And John told him, you did the right thing. You are a good boy, Joe. You did the right thing. However, Mrs. Jordan became ill again in the years that followed. Again, Mrs. Jordan had a bad illness. The doctor said that she should live in a warmer climate. Doctor advised them to change the climate, to leave Birtwick Park and go to somewhere with much good weather, warm weather. We heard the Squire and Mrs. Jordan were going to leave England. Everybody was very sad. the Squire and Mrs. Jordan were going to leave England. All Squire, all Squire Jordan's horses were sold to new owners. Ginger and I were the last horses to leave Birtwick Park. One morning we took uh, Squire Jordan and his wife to the railway station. We never saw them again. So Black Beauty and Ginger took Squire Jordan and his wife to the railway station. Ginger and I found out that we were going to live at Urchel Park, the home of a rich Earl called Smythe Gone told took us there the next day and told the new helper man called York. So we have another owner. He is called Errol Smith. Again, Errol Smith is going to have Ginger and Black Beauty, and we have a new helper called York, and the horses were going to live there. They changed Birtwick Park. They went to Earlshall Park. Okay, uh, that we were the best horses they could have. Then John left too. John left Earlshall Park and went to other place. Too, I felt very sad to see him go. I did not realize that my new home with Earl and Lady Smith would bring new difficulties for Ginger and me. Okay, so now what do we understand from the story? What we understand is that Mrs. Jordan became very ill, and they had to change the place to go to warmer climate in order for her to be better and her health to get well. Okay, thank you for your listening, and goodbye everybody.